We're now being asked to raise the debt ceiling another $4 trillion over the next 2 years. And if you follow the Biden administration's budget wish list, that would take it to $50 billion by 2033. And several weeks ago, the House Freedom Caucus put out a plan to try to address the debt ceiling and then also to address our profligate federal spending. The much of that has been adopted by Speaker McCarthy in his letter to President Biden, and that's why I was offering him gratitude earlier. First of all, we said you have to revoke President Biden's unconstitutional and ill-conceived forgiveness of student loans. The HFC scored it at $400 billion, but when you actually not just get to the forgiveness portion, but you get into the reworking, it's a total savings of about $609 billion. When you rescind unspent COVID-19 funds, that's at least another $100 billion. When you eliminate subsidies and tax credits for outrageous and unproven Green New Deal projects, that is scored as $350 billion that you can rescind and claw back. We've already voted out of the House a rescission of $80 billion of the IRS funding. When you cap non-defense discretionary spending at 2022 levels, you save an additional $130 billion. The total savings of the HFC plan was $3 trillion over 10 years, but at current spending rates, or I shouldn't say current spending rates, but at rates that will continue on because we will continue to spend higher than our revenue every month, over the course of 10 years, your net will still be a deficit, an additional adding to your national debt of somewhere north of $10 trillion. So we urge immediate action, and I hope that's where our conference continues to go. Recovering unspent COVID money, recouping the money for subsidies and tax credits for outrageous and unproven Green New Deal projects, and the IRS funds that double that agency. Those alone total $500 billion. Now, why do we bring this up? Because if you can move the necessity of raising and lifting your debt ceiling level, and you can push that off past the current fiscal year, the end of the current fiscal year, that would allow us to then implement cost-saving measures that would forestall the need to raise the debt ceiling. Then we can recover additional dollars from the Biden's unconstitutional, ill-conceived student loan forgiveness and restructuring plan, currently scored at $609 billion. We should immediately also ascertain how much of COVID relief and other federal dollars are in the treasuries of the several states and are unusable right now. They just sit there because the states have restrictions on them. They can't use them because of the restrictions we gave them. We should then allow that money to be used in ways that are normally funded by the federal government, thus obviating the need for new federal money, certainly in fiscal year 2024, because they would have money already there. Finally, with the postponement of the debt ceiling deadline artificially imposed by Secretary Yellen, we could consider a budget that reflects the reality of our fiscal crisis. And this gets to what I was thanking Mr. McCarthy, Speaker McCarthy, for earlier. To my left is 507 pieces of legislation that reflect reductions in spending. The way we did that is my staff, and I thank my staff, Zach and Scott and Matt, who worked diligently, long hours putting this together. And we submitted these requests to the Appropriations Committee and now also have these in legislative form. These bills, together with others that my colleagues behind me have worked on, would reflect additional billions and billions of dollars in savings, which would add to the overall net reduction in our national debt, or reduction in the acceleration of the national debt, that's for sure. And I encourage you to, as you read those, understand we had to go through and get line items because we couldn't receive the line items. We should be doing a line item budget. We should be doing a zero-based budget. That would allow us to make reductions specifically where they need to go. Well, we didn't have that, so we had to use previous budgets and go from there. And that's what we have. And every one of these probably has 6 to 10, 12, sometimes more lines underneath them that need to be evaluated as well. Our work isn't done. And so I appreciate the support of our conference and hearing Mr. McCarthy. I appreciate his support for our plan. And I'm grateful for my colleagues here who all are working on this and trying to extend the HFC plan to make sure that we get on a fiscal path that allows the United States to continue with economic and fiscal growth now and in the future. I recognize now my friend from South Carolina, Mr. Ralph